Hi, this is Lynn with Yoga Story Express. Welcome back to the podcast. And today it is what's in December, and we're coming up on dry January, and that is the time of the year. Of course, January starting off a new year. A lot of people have New Year's resolutions, and here at the studio for several years, we have been doing dry January with the alcohol experiment. So I'm interviewing different people from the studio who have made the decision to be dry from alcohol. And today we have Rachel Cordova. Rachel, welcome.
Hi, Lynn. Thank you for introducing me. I'm Rachel. I've been coming to Yoga Story since March 15th, 2022. I took some classes here and there before, but that was like my first official start of my new life.
Yeah, and you just this week celebrated 1,000 days sober from alcohol. How do you feel?
I feel so proud.
It is something you should be proud of. I think it is something to be proud of because our culture these days is very, pushes a lot on alcohol and promotes alcohol as part of connection. Coming up on 5 years in May of next year, 2025. Quitting in, yeah, 2025. Can you
That's
believe
kind
it's
of
2025?
well, 5 years in 2025 is kind of cool.
Yeah,
The numbers are interesting to me when
oh,
they
that is, yeah, it's
line up.
fifth month in 2025. Wonder what that means. Maybe I'll celebrate it on the 5th too. But I quit during COVID
Mhm.
because I was like, I can't stop drinking, and I knew like either needed to get dry, and I tried. My first attempt was January 2020, and it didn't happen. And I said I either am going to be an alcoholic or I'm gonna get sober. So, what was something that prompted you that you knew you needed to address your drinking?
It was my health for the most part, really. I had been an everyday drinker for years. And so I was even waking up in the middle of the night and like taking shots. Like I was out of control. I didn't want to feel at all at any part of the day. Like really. So my health was declining, and I knew I have seen people in my life die young from alcoholism,
Yeah.
and I knew that it wasn't sustainable, really. So
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting how our society really pushes alcohol, and it's a carcinogen. It doesn't it's a carcinogen, and it's a toxin. And I'm sure in small doses it's fine. However, that's not usually what our society promotes, is not small doses. But I remember you coming in, and I had an extra copy
yeah,
of the alcohol experiment,
yeah.
and it just something told me to
That's
give it to you.
Yeah, and I needed it. I needed it bad. Like that was before I started coming regularly. Like,
Mhm.
and I remember I didn't even have enough cash. I was living with just so out of control because I was drinking. Like my cash was just in my purse. Like, I didn't even have anything together to the point where my book, I was like $1 short, and you're like, just take it.
Yeah.
Like you knew I needed it. You're like, you can have it. I was like, oh, thank you so much. Maybe I'll be back.
Yeah. So do you remember reading the book? Is there anything in particular that like stood out to you? I know for me, reading it, I liked how she approached it very third party perspective, as opposed to a lot of programs will talk about your relationship with alcohol. And she does have you examine that somewhat, but she gives you specific parameters and then talks about it how alcohol is a toxin, a carcinogen, and this is how it works with your nervous system. Which that's one way, like you're very dysregulated when you're drinking, you're very dysregulated. And that really spoke to me more than other ways that I had been trying to approach it. Was there anything in the book that kind of impacted you?
Definitely. The book just started making me think about root causes of things. Like, why do I feel this out of Well, I started to think about my mental health, and I started to think about how there's a root cause and how I was directly impacting it negatively by drinking. Like any little mental health issue, I was pouring kerosene on it when I was drinking alcohol, and it just exploded in my face before I could do anything. And then I'm taught by society and everyone in my family, really from a long line of drinkers, that alcohol is a tool. So when I started feeling out of control, I drank more, and then it just became my life and my friends and my profession. I was in the culinary world, like I was in hospitality. It was my whole entire existence. So, yes, just examining the root of all my problems. And they all started within my body and my mind. And I was just exposing it to this poison daily that
That didn't help, like, it
didn't
didn't
help.
help solve anything.
No.
No.
So that just opened my eyes to me solving. I had the ability to solve my own problem, which I never really thought about before, to try to manipulate my own mind. And I had the control to. I just thought that alcohol was helping, and it never had been.
I like that point that you have the ability to solve your own problems, but when you're dysregulated, and we talk about a lot about regulation in yoga because the yoga practice, one of the aspects of it, of course, is the challenge in the power classes,
Mhm.
to kind of test the muscular system, and it does great things physiological with the body, but then teaching you how to breathe deeply during those times of slight dysregulation so that we are not kicking into fight or flight. And then, of course, in the more yin classes or relaxing classes, it's to completely allow you to be at rest and regulated. How did yoga help you during either getting sober or after getting sober, any part of your sober journey?
It gave me a routine. It gave me something to look forward to. I was an everyday drinker, so there was this time of the day that I looked forward to. So I started coming to class. The first day, really disliked it. Obviously, I felt awful. And by the second day, I could kind of wrap my head around it. I had a 30-day trial pass, so I was like trying to come every day. And so by the third or fourth day, I really was appreciated the routine of it. And then, like you said, just feeling versus fighting the feeling, which I'd been so used to immediately pushing away any kind of uncomfortability. There's really not a space to in class. You're challenged to just push through it. And I never thought about it before. Really, it sounds silly, but I'd been taught for so long to just push it all away that just feeling on the mat for that one day, it just changed me almost immediately. Like I needed to keep feeling that.
Mhm. And I can't remember if it's in the book that she says this or if I heard this somewhere else. And the book, just again to reiterate, is called The Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace. So it's either in the book or somewhere else where they say, if you're numbing bad feelings, if you're numbing your feelings, you're numbing not only the bad, but the good feelings too. So that really hit me when I heard that because I was like, oh, if I am numbing the bad feelings and teaching myself to escape from these bad feelings, which my bad feelings were anxiety,
Mhm.
and some other wounds and trauma that I won't go into, but it was all causing me anxiety. That I was then trying to numb it with alcohol at the end of the day, and then wanting to push it earlier and earlier, especially when COVID happened in 2020. Um, then I was like, oh, so perhaps this will also allow me to feel greater amounts of joy or happiness because I'm not numbing everything.
Yes.
So how do you feel now? Like, do you remember in your mind's eye, like how you felt when you were drinking emotionally and mentally?
Yes, I remember thinking that the life I have now I could never live. Like it would be so boring and I would hate it and I would never be happy living like at a 5. I would always have to be living this extreme, extremely fast, lavish life. And um yeah, I'm really thankful that today I can just be at a 5 and coast. And like you said, I had to learn how to feel happy feelings. I didn't realize that every time I was happy, I was probably intoxicated for just years and years.
Mhm.
So feeling just plain happiness from seeing my husband come home or my kids be, just be happy, it's a gift. It really is.
So, you do a lot of home practice as well as coming to the studio. So, how would you say that your practice at home helps you out in your daily life as well?
Well, as soon as I put the boys down, I'm usually upside down in a handstand. So, like when I'm feeling like I can't even see straight, I start moving and I preach it to everybody that I know because it's just this free medicine that we have access to. So, like I used to use booze as my medicine and I just want to scream from the rooftops, like, we have it. You can strip everything away from us. And I know now, and I used to never feel this way. I know now that I can be stripped of everything important to me that I think gives my life value and still find this peace and joy within myself. And I just never felt that until I removed substance, until I started allowing myself to feel good and bad, until I challenged myself to feel good and bad things. Because still in moments of despair, I have these thoughts, man, I really wish I could just make this feeling go away. I want it to disappear now. Like, and then I challenge myself to feel it. And it's like this movement. And it is just this, it's something that until you feel it, like it's a new high for me.
Mm.
Is feeling these feelings, really.
I love that. You can get high off your
It's like
feelings, right? Yeah.
emotion inside of you, whether it's rage or, fear or passion, it's something that you can't really feel if you're tapped out of your brain
If you're
on drugs or
disassociated
alcohol.
from your body.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that because we often, I always call it the shit yoga teacher say. When you hear like a yoga teacher say something that's a cute little phrase,
Yeah.
a lot of so one of them is you have to feel it to heal it,
Yeah.
that's that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So there is like an actual background scientific thing about feeling your feelings that if you don't allow yourself to feel times of discomfort,
Mhm.
then it will actually show up in your body in some other way. So that includes numbing discomfort with alcohol or bad feelings or sadness, grief, anger, anything that's unpleasurable.
Mhm.
If we don't allow ourselves to feel it, it is going to show up in our body in some other way. And that really hit home for me because I felt like that's what I was doing, was trying to keep myself from feeling some, feeling stuck, feeling like I'd made wrong choices, feeling the anxiety. Like I didn't want to feel those things. I wanted to feel like everything in my life was happy and let's pretend. But then it'll start to show up and I had insomnia. I was severely anxious and there was doing other things that were not healthy for me physically or mentally, emotionally. And so when you remove that disassociation from your body because you're no longer taking a substance that allows you for hours of disassociation, because it's the way it works chemically,
Okay.
is you have to chase it.
I love reading about all the chemical processes too, because I really didn't know what it was doing to me
Right.
and how bad it was affecting my brain, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I could handle the body part. I was like, okay, I've been messing up my body. And then it's like, wow, you really been doing some serious brain damage also.
yeah. Is our brains are wonderful, beautiful things that produce chemicals that we can use other things to get that chemical hit from. And then
Mhm.
if we're using, alcohol is one of them, and social media is another one. I'm on that kick right now because I'm giving my brain a washing, is what I call it, and staying off social media for a while so that I can kind of reset my brain's processes. And we don't really quite understand like how those things affect our brain until we get off of them. So how do you feel mentally, clarity wise?
I'm still trying to figure that out because I'm postpartum too. So I got sober. And then I got pregnant with twins. And then it's also really taken me a long time to realize how long it takes to find a neutral like space when you've been kind of out of control for a long time. So I always think that I'm doing pretty good. And then when I go back and reflect on like a situation, I've learned to give myself, especially in this postpartum phase, like a little bit of time to react or respond. And that saved me quite a bit. But like I'm pushing, I'll be 3 years sober March 15th, but I still feel like that first month of sobriety, I felt like I was really mentally clear. And now, like all this time later, I still feel like, oh, I probably have a ways to go. But like I said, it's so impactful on our mental health. I don't think we really realize until we've separated from it how beneficial it could be for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was already postpartum when I quit, but I feel like it took me a full year for my nervous system to it was like my that whole year my nervous system did a hard reset because there were then other things that I had to deal with emotionally and mentally that were starting to come up. But I feel like, and I don't know if this is true for you, so you can chime in after, but once I was able to kind of move past that year to find that new neutral, then I really started to dig in to the things that I needed to heal. Then I could see like where the root issues were coming from to go to therapy or to do whatever, the therapeutic practice that you have is to actually heal those specific wounds. Do you feel like does that resonate with you at all?
It does. Yeah. Somebody close to me just told me, you're really good at staying sober, but now I think you should start like active recovery. So it does resonate with me a lot because I feel like being back hands on and getting this is why I started yoga was to ultimately end up helping people
Mhm.
in recovery or the people who need access
So
to
tell people what active recovery is.
active recovery is like, for example, I just left an AA meeting. I didn't need to go to that AA meeting today to stay sober, but there were some things said today that I needed to hear in my life that had I not gone to that meeting today, I would have seen through a different set of lenses. So it's just working and being of service to other people who are still sick. And that's what I would consider active recovery. A big part of that for me is going to be giving back because a lot of times I feel like the people who really need these types of services, they just don't have access. So bringing access to the people who are sick and because I've been one of them and I still in a lot of ways I'm sick in other ways. So um being in active recovery humbles me really and reminds me that I'm just one, bad day away from being right back at the bottom of my barrel, which is being an alcoholic. So
Yeah. For me, I go to therapy and I've been going to therapy for years, but now since I've kind of gotten to the point where I can identify the different things that I do from my wounds, that's active recovery for me. And then hopefully, like giving people this space here at the studio because you might have a healthy relationship, you, the audience, with alcohol. Even though the substance itself is not healthy for your body, you may still have a fine relationship with it. Or you might be someone who's listening to this saying, I really would like to examine my usage of alcohol because I'm starting to become self-aware of using it at this time or at that time or what, different times that you're triggered or whatnot and you need a drink. That hopefully give people a non-judgmental place to do that because that's also one big thing about the book is that society in general pushes alcohol a lot but then will shame people for being alcoholics. Did you ever feel like that was a barrier for you?
nobody ever told me I was an alcoholic. I'm like, guys, why didn't you guys tell me something? Like after I'm like, were you just okay with me being flaky and like you really never told me anything? Like, so no, nobody really brought it to my attention. It wasn't until after I started really doing the work and realizing, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
need to I need to re-examine some relationships and say some sorries. But no, I wasn't really aware
Yeah.
while I was.
And that's the thing too about alcoholism is that there's not really you can't diagnose it as an amount of alcohol. Oh, well, you have 3 drinks a day every single day, so you're an alcoholic.
Right.
Right? The clinical definition is to where your drinking impacts your everyday life, right? And so then it's just subject to then what that means to an individual, right?
Right.
If you're seeing a mental health professional or a doctor and they're like, "Oh, well, you can't perform your job or you're doing something harmful to your kids," and that's an obvious effect of your everyday life. However, for me, it was, I couldn't get up and go meet my friends to go run because I had a hangover, or I was starting to drink more frequently, more earlier during the day. So for me, I'm like, yeah, that's impacting my life. Did I leave my kid in the car while I go run? No, nothing like that. But not that that's better or worse. But for me, I said, yes, I'm an alcoholic because I couldn't stop drinking for any period of time. I tried like 2 weeks and I couldn't make it past 2 weeks. So for me, yes, that's an impact every day of my life that I have to have a drink of alcohol every single day. So that's why I say I'm an alcoholic. But love how the book frames the fact that there's not any shame around this. We might feel regret for actions or decisions that we made when we were intoxicated. But the big aspect of it is to drop the shame and guilt because it's something that we are using to, like you said, medicate. And it's not the tool that we need to be using. So you have yoga, you have active recover. What other tools do you use to continue to stay sober?
I bake now.
Yes.
I started baking. Yay, I love
Great
baking.
baker.
There's a lot of science in it, and I love making things from the same like root. It's all flour, butter, sugar. So making all these different things, like it blows my mind when it tastes correct still. But yeah, I love to bake. I'm finding other avenues, but like baking, I was in the culinary industry, and when I got sober, um, I did not limit myself from like going out to bars and whatnot. Like, I know it's a hard time with holidays for people to stay sober. You can still go out to bars and it's still really, really fun. It's actually more fun because you don't think about the next drink. Um,
You don't usually
you
regret
don't
it.
plan it, you don't have a hangover, you can still go work out, like, if you're, having a mixer at 4, you don't have to worry about getting tanked and missing yin at 7, like, it's really still fun to go out, so, like, don't be afraid to get out there and go to the mixer or the holiday pop-up, like, it's still really fun.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and y'all should Rachel is very, very talented baker, and she also does charcuterie
I
boards
do.
as well, serendipitous spreads on Instagram. So if you ever need charcuterie needs, you can check her out and message her. She's going to be doing the Yoga Story holiday party. So anything else that you want to add to just your journey in getting sober, or any points of that you think will help other people to add?
Yeah, I think that just go for it. I mean, just try it. There's no shame in trying it, and if you think you even have the slightest hint or you think like it makes you a little too angry or anything, if you even have the slightest inclination, like I said, there's always going to be something going on. Like New Year's is in 2 weeks. Don't wait till New Year's. Don't wait till like Valentine's Day. I used to try to plan when I was going to get sober before because I had thought about it. But like my advice is to just try it. Like it's going to benefit your life. You'll start feeling better after a week, physically for sure. Like if anything, just give yourself that time and then see through a new set of lenses after that and reevaluate. But it's 100% worth it.
And if you're interested in the books, there's two of them. This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, and then the Alcohol Experiment is pretty much the same content as This Naked Mind, but it's set up in a 30-day reading. So there's a chapter per day, and then she has some little add-ins, and there's even an expanded version with a journal where you can journal about the reading. Yes. So if you're interested in that, the books are available, or if you would like to do our program, it starts January 1st with me and Gabby Mitchneck, who I'll be interviewing next. So thank you so much, Rachel, for your time.
Thank you.